Hey everyone, I'm Jean Tunes from Mezzanine Talk. You're listening to the bonus episode of episode 3 with Brendon van Rooyen, where he takes us step by step through the process of building a drum shell. So, talking now chronologically, the sort of step-by-step analysis of constructing a shell. How do we go about in doing that? Take us from start to finish.
Okay, we'll do this chop. Okay, so first I need to receive the wood, right?
Yeah.
So once I've received my sheets, it's still kind of rough. So I need to create one flush side for each sheet so that I can use that flush side, okay, and run it through a table saw with a fence is what we call it, which is really just a wall and a sort of guide, you know. So when you take your material and I take that sheet, it's running right up against this fence kind of set up on the table saw. So I'm basically taking the veneer and I start prepping them for the final trimming to be manipulated into the molds. So I'll definitely, what I do is I'll take those sheets and let's say we're working on a 14 by 8 in depth snare drum. So I'll cut those sheets to 8 inches, make sure that they're 8 inches in depth, every single one of them. Let's say I'm laying in 4 sheets in the mold. So I'll have my 4 sheets, run them through the table saw at 8 inches in depth. And then once I'm done with that, I'll start working out and trimming the length to get it into the mold. So that would be my second process. First process, just prepping the wood and getting the correct depth. Then I focus on the length. Then I slowly, with a Stanley knife and a square ruler. It sounds a little unorthodox, but it's like there are a lot of companies that build like this, you know, world-class drums. British Drum Company used to do it. They don't anymore. I mean, they've since, you know, upgraded in their tools, you know. But this is a rad method to use when you really want to get a shell, or if you know, because at the end of the day, you don't want any voids in the drum. You don't want any gaps, any of that. You want the shells to
solid.
They need to be solid. Those seams need to be almost seamless, right? So it's actually quite a convenient way of takes a little longer, right? Because you're gonna take your first sheet, you're gonna kind of measure it, you're gonna slowly just trim away little strips at a time, you know, just until and then you're gonna move back to the mold, see if it works. It doesn't work. Need to take another 0.5 mil off, take it out again. And, you know, because with the challenges with it's just the pure nature of wood. But different woods have different tolerances, you know, in terms of like pressure and the environment around you, you know. So, I mean, if it's really moist outside, it starts affecting the wood as well, and the wood kind of swells a little bit. But so at the end of the day, we're prepping sheets to length. That's the second cycle. And once we've got each sheet cut to length, right? Because your first sheet's going to be longer than the second sheet. You know what I mean? So if you've got 4 sheets, your sheets slowly get slightly shorter. by a few mils, it's not by much, maybe even like I'd say like 2 to 3 centimeters. So once I'm done with that, okay, I've prepped all 4 sheets that need to go into the mold. Then I'll get the glue and I'll start prepping. I'll take the first sheet and I'll manipulate straight into the mold. And what I do is my molds are, the jigs are, they're 2 parts. The reason why I kind of chose to kind of, to have the molds that open up and split open is only so that I can get the shell out once it's cured. When I start the molding process, I have the shell closed at all times. So the mold is solid closed. There's immense pressure there, and we'll never, it doesn't move at all. And so I put in the first sheet, dry. That's what happens now. I take the first sheet. This is your exterior sheet that goes in dry. I clip that into place. Then I apply a glue, a resin, in fact, that you apply to one side only. So I'll take the second sheet and then I'll apply the glue. And then I'll clip that sheet in, take the third sheet, apply the glue. So the first sheet is dry. Second sheet glue, third sheet glue, fourth sheet glue, and making sure that you don't spill anything on the inner exterior side of that fourth sheet, right? Because you don't want any glue spill inside of the shell either. So I've basically eliminated at one stage I was kind of just masking the whole of the inside of my fourth sheet, just masking it so that I don't spill any glue. But over the few years I've been building, I've managed to kind of eliminate that whole process of masking up the inside sheet, So that's basically, so we've got the first cycle of just prepping the wood and getting the correct depths. Then the second cycle is chopping the wood to their respective lengths. Once I've done that and fitted everything all those sheets in the mold dry, then I start the glue process. So then I'll open up the mold again. I'll take all the sheets dry, because I'll first do a dry run, just to make sure everything clips in. And then when I add the glue, it obviously, you're adding micromils of thickness when you start adding glue. And the wood starts absorbing a lot of moisture as well. So what I'm kind of working with to my advantage is is focusing on the length, getting the sheets as close as possible to 100% in length, so that when it is butted in there, each sheet will clip into place.
Sure.
Nerve-wracking. And then we've got to take into consideration that the glue starts swelling the wood as well. So you've got that extra bit of added pressure once you've already applied that natural pressure, right? So it all kind of works in my favor to really get this tension-free sort of setup where I'm using almost the perfect lengths of each sheet, with an added bit of, with the glue adds that extra little bit of thickness, and it pushes up against the seams a bit more. So you're naturally going to get the shell that's really tension free. And then you can add pressure. I always obviously add pressure because it's just a guarantee that you've got the glue, like in all, all the areas in the surfaces of wherever you've been smearing your glue.
Yeah.
Everything is compressed and laminated 100%. You know, each area of the drum shell is you know, got full on like feet, maybe like 50 psi, you know, of pressure or something like that, you know, 50 bars. But I don't rely on a lot of pressure at all from the inside. I really just rely on the natural tension of each sheet. Yeah, that's basically it. So now I've got the dry sheets. I've fitted in dry. I take the sheets out of the mold, open the mold up, take the sheets out, start the gluing. Then I'll take sheet one, put it in dry. Then I'll go through all 4 sheets, or however thick we want the shell, you know?
Yeah.
4 sheets will make up a 6 mil shell. And, I think it's a kind of, sort of the sweet spot between the thicker shell and the thinner shell. You know, it's a good, I think, because it's not too thin and it's not too thick, you're gonna get a bit of punch, but you're still gonna get your resonance.
Yeah.
And everything else, really, you know, and the rest is just depending on what wood you're using. You know, how much of that punch are you getting? How dark is that wood? How dark is, and you know, how much mid range does it have? So there's so many things that they come into play. So many aspects to it. So now the shells are glued and they're in the mold. I can either choose to use a gym ball or keep it in there, depending. I'll kind of really start examining the shell while it's still in the mold, just to make sure there are 100% no gaps and no voids, no spaces where the shell, where, you know, one of the laminates, one of the sheets can kind of lift a little, you know. Sometimes that happens when you don't apply too much glue. And then you kind of, if you've done this and you've spotted it in time, you can pull that sheet out and start again, you know. But that's not the idea. You want to just go in there. When you glue that shell, you've got to make 100% sure that it's 100%
in place,
and you know, everything's just cut 100% basically. So once that is all done and glued, shell goes in, we pull it out. Now I've got this shell, right? Because what I've done is, because I've cut each sheet at 100%, you know, well, accurately at 8 inches in depth.
Yeah.
Okay? When I place the jig onto a real solid flush surface. So now I've got this jig on a real flush surface with my flush 8-inch sides on 8-inch depths. I've cut those 100% straight and flush. Now I'll start dropping each sheet, obviously. Because we've made this shell now, right?
Yeah.
The shell will come out with 100%. It'll be 8 inches deep, and it'll be pretty much almost ready to you know, be put on the router table and cut some bearing edges.
Yes.
So when it comes out, it's a shell. It doesn't have some excess wood kind of sticking out where you have to then take it to a table saw or, you know, whatever, to kind of cut it to get the appropriate depth you're looking for, if you know what I mean. So, because a lot of companies, they take the shell, they'll apply all the material and laminate the shell. But, you know, the one piece would be a little bit longer than the other piece, you know what I mean? And only when they take it out, that shell would go onto and probably some sort of automated, like a CNC blade cutter that kind of I've seen a lot of these rad companies where they've got these cool machines where they mount the shell, and then this blade would come over, and as the shell's slowly turning like this, the blade comes and cuts the shell to its appropriate depth, the depth they're looking at. Easy go. So I kind of eliminate that part.
Yes, for sure.
Of doing a final trim of the depth. So I'll start from beginning with the correct depth of the shell on the sheet.
But that needs like a lot of preciseness, like you've mentioned. Yeah.
So I mean, your measurement and the table saw does that work for you, because you've set your fence from the blade to the wall. Your fence is, we mark it at 8 inches right there, and then you're just feeding through the wood, as accurately as possible, so that when you layer up those 4 sheets, man, I mean, you're just gonna turn it, you're gonna bend it like this and join it, and you're gonna have you can look at it like that. You'd be like, cool, man, that looks like a drum shell already, it hasn't even been glued. So once the shell comes out, you've pretty much got your 14-inch by 8-inch depth. Then we run it on another solid piece of MDF, or if you've got a real flush piece of like a steel, I don't know what they call it, but just a real flush surface.
Yeah.
Sandpaper. I usually use like an 80 grit or a 100 grit, and I'd stick that on a flush piece of MDF. But you got to really make sure that your MDF, your piece, isn't warped. You got to just really make sure you've got a nice flush flat surface. Then you're going to just neaten up each edge on either side of the drum. So we've taken the drum out of the mold. So there's a tiny bit of excess glue or resin just on the edges. And we're going to just neaten that up on our flat sand surface, right? Our flat sanding surface. So now we're just squaring up and flushing the edges, getting a bit of the excess glue off and the resin. Once I've done that on both sides of the edges, we're pretty much ready for either like a paint job or a Danish oil treatment. So there are 2 ways. You can either finish your shell first. Let's say you wanted to paint the shell. Your shell's ready. You've flushed the edges. You want to spray this thing black, or whatever it is you want to do to this drum, if you want to, the idea is finish it first, paint it, or Danish it, treat the wood. Then you go to the mat. So it's really a layout mat. That's it's a layout mat for the hardware, right? So we're gonna, on your hardware mat, you've got a whole lot of circles starting from an 8-inch all the way up to like 20 inches, 22 inches. Got all your drum diameters on it. Yeah. And those, it's like a little power divider, And so you can kind of make one yourself. You can make your own power divider. Or you can download like a little PDF of some online, really, and then you just blow that up, and then and then kind of make the pieces bigger so that you can fit a bass drum on there if you wanted, if you wanted to put some hardware on that. So got the shell, we've done the painting. Now it's ready for hardware. So what I do is, before I even do the bearing edges, I get stuck in with the marking and the layout of the hardware.
Of where the holes is going to be.
Where the holes are going to be.
Yeah.
So you've got your mat, And then I take some masking tape and I choose the bottom side, because like I said, I've got some perceived notion of what the shell's going to look like, and I've chosen that the shell needs to be up like that, because obviously now the grain's going down, the vertical grain is this way, so I'd like the shell to be placed that way, so that my snare beds are at the bottom, and I've got a variety of bearing edges I can choose for the batter side, and some bearing edges I can choose for the bottom side. So shell's been painted. I've marked for hardware now. You're basically just placing it on your layout mat. And if it's an 8 lug, you're gonna lay it down. Sometimes you apply some pressure, like even if you want, put a heavy book on there. But it's really not that necessary. And then just with the pen, where I've placed the masking tape at the bottom side of the shell, and just with just depends on the pen. Sometimes I use a pen if the point of the pen is real fine and the ink doesn't come out and smudge on. Sometimes it smudges over the masking tape. But like a nice sharp pencil, and you're gonna mark your sides, mark where your badge is gonna go, your throw off system, the butt end, your badge. Obviously, your snare beds are in line with where your snare switch and your butt end would be. Yeah. And then that's basically it. So once you've done all that, then I start working out what hardware I'm going to be using, and depending on the hardware setup, let's say we got tube lugs and it's like a two-way system. Yeah. So it's one lug that serves both sides of the drum. Yes. Or we got lugs top and bottom, And then so now I've got my lines, okay, and then I've marked at the bottom mask, with a masking tape. I've marked for 8 lugs, and I've marked for the rest of the hardware. Now I take the shell, and then I'll get some more masking tape, and then where I've marked each line,
drill the holes.
No, then I'll take the masking tape and place that in the center of each dot where I've marked the 8 dots for the lugs. Yeah. So then I'll go up horizontally up the shell, so that I can draw another line to line up square. Because we use a thing called the adjustable square. Yeah. Which is really just a square ruler, but it's got a little adjuster and a one of those spirit readers for level and all of that. Anyway, so it's a ruler that we use when we're marking for hardware. Obviously, that hardware needs to be square with the shell, right? So we really need to rely on a shell that is accurately square. You know what I mean? And then from there, we mark from the edge using the square and adjustable ruler. We mark our lines going right around the drum. Once we've got our lines where we need to place our lugs and all the other little bits, then we need to measure how long your lugs are and how we're going to be placing them. Okay, so let's say we're going to be using single lugs. Then it's kind of simple in a way, as we know that from the bearing edge to the first hole drilled for your lugs need to be plus minus 1.5, 2 inches maximum. Otherwise, you're too far, and you probably need to find tension rods long enough to do the job. So with single lugs, it's really simple. We've marked the shell. We've got all our lines for lug placement. We've got lugs on top, lugs at the bottom. 8 lugs at the top, 8 lugs at the bottom. now we take a vernier or caliper, what they call it. I've got a rad little digital one. I'm not sure if you know what that is, like a vernier.
No.
Those measure, like a, how do I explain it? It's just an accurate reader for engineers,
right.
There's that engineer a lot and measure a lot of
your
accuracy.
distance, yeah.
Especially for like smaller parts, you also get real big, tools like that. So I use a caliper because I can set it to inches, convert it to inches, or convert it from inches to millimeters. It can do that for me, So I know that in general, for snare drums and toms, from the bearing edge to the first hole drilled for any lug really, is a plus minus 1.5 to 2 inches from the bearing edge to the first hole for each lug.
Sure.
So now we know. So now we've got the first hole markings for each lug, okay, from the top. And then you do the same for the bottom. Then you turn the drum at the bottom, turn it around, measure 1.5 inches or your 2 inches. Let's say you've got this 14-inch drum and it's 8 inches in depth, but you'd like to use like bass drum tension rods. So you want to use longer tension rods,
Yeah.
It is kind of possible, but then you're going to have an offset. You'd have to offset your lugs.
Yes.
And you could make it happen, But ideally, that's rule of thumb, 1.5 to 2 inches from the bearing edge to first hole of your lugs. Then once you've done all of that, you've marked where you want to put your badge. That's kind of, you can really choose if you like playing with your snare switch to the left,
yes,
or in the middle. As a builder, you can kind of choose where you want to place that badge, just to display. So we've got the markings done, and we've drilled all those holes. It's just straight to the drill press. I don't use a hand drill. It's just you get such a neat cut when you're using the drill press, and there's so much more control, and you don't tend to split the inside of the shell as that blade just presses through the wood. Sometimes the wood tends to split. So what I do is I use offcuts of veneer, because I'm using one drill press for all sorts of hardware with different measurements, right? And different drill bit thicknesses. So I'll use one drill press, and then I'm drilling holes, basically just going through that whole process of following where I've marked and dotted all my measurements.
All the lugs and all the hardware.
For all the switches and all that stuff. Go through the drilling. Then we do the bearing edges. Because now remember, we've got a painted drum, right? If we were to do the bearing edges before we did the paint, it's like, how are you going to mask that up neatly, without like spilling paint all over the bearing edge and all of that, So paint, drill for hardware, at least map. Map for hardware. Then we drill for hardware, mask, drill for hardware, bearing edges. Now you're going to have like such a neat finish, because it's going to trim away whatever you've been messing. Sometimes it can be a tiny bit of spill right on the edge of the shell or whatever, but you're pretty much just going to go through that. It's going to neaten up the edge, and you're cutting your bearing edges.
Do you have a different bearing edge for batter and rezo?
There's such a...
It depends.
It depends, but there's...
I'm just asking in general.
It's really like... how do I explain this? So, I mean, we can either choose to have like the 50-50 sort of edge, where your the actual edge, the pointy edge of that is right directly in the center of the core of the shell. So you've got that 50-50. You can even round off that 50-50 and have more contact surface of the head to the shaft, to the edge. Or you can do, but this is all 45 degree. I don't have a 30 degree router blade, because that's basically, those are the blades, the bits that we need, It's either 45 or a 30. So like I offer only 45s, but there's a variety of them, there are quite a few options. My favorite is the 60-40. So where I've got 60% of the inner edge out, and obviously the 40 from the outside.
Yes.
But I like to round it off. I really like I want a lot of contact surface between the head and the
edge.
And the edge.
Yeah.
And the reason why I like cutting away from the outside as well, cutting 40% as opposed to some, there's some, like my kit at the moment, I play a rad Pearl Vision drum set. Like, those bird shells are just like, oh, it's magic, man. But, from time to time, I have a problem with how the heads settle on the edge, on the bearing edges, because those shells don't have a percentage cut away from on the outer, so the exterior bearing edge, there isn't one really, it's just straight from the inside, like a 100%, almost like a 90% cut through from the inside.
I see. That's why you like to round them off.
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm having I have a problem with having the heads settle on that drum set,
So they move.
So I actually have to apply a lot more pressure to have that head
bedded properly.
Really, for sure. So now, I'm going to play. I plan on actually just taking those shells and just working them,
modify the
edges of it, because then then I can kind of go through. Because at the moment, I think I can only use Evans drum heads.
Okay.
For
level 360s.
Yeah. For that kit,
that sucks.
Yeah,
I mean, Evans is great. I love them, but it sucks to only have one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hence, this is why I'll definitely just, I'll just see what I can do. Just soften it up and bring the tip of the edge more towards the center of the shell.
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
That's it.
60, you can even do like a 70-30, it's like it's not much of a difference, But, really common is like the 80-20, where you've got a sort of 20% cut away from the outside and the rest is cut away on the inside. But most of my shells are, I think even Bruce's, all of them, Bruce and Jonno and Andy, most of them 60-40. Yeah.
And then
so much easier, and like you put the head on, you apply tension to each tension rod, and it's already it's there.
Seated.
You don't need to apply that additional just to get that thing to stretch and settle on the actual bearing edge. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I know.
One last question that I wanted to ask, and the air holes. How do you
fence the vent holes?
Yes.
Wow, bro.
How do you do that?
So now that, I don't know, I'm not sure if you know the golden ratio, that's Pearl drums, that's their sort of approach to it.
Yeah.
Where it kind of obviously needs to be placed, from the bearing edge, a specific distance.
Yes.
And that will give you the ultimate,
release.
Almost like that, you know, when you're playing a harmony note and you know that when you're playing a guitar and then like
on the 12th fret,
the 12th fret,
yes.
There's no
when you perfectly match pitch-wise with the E,
yes,
when you have
yes.
to, if it's a way to check if the wood is treated properly, if the guitar is bowled properly. If you play, I think it's a harmonic on the
harmonic
on the 12th fret,
that's it.
and then that should be in tune with the E.
So that's kind of that's the concept and the approach there.
I see. Never thought of that. Okay.
But yeah, man.
Interesting. Thanks, man.
Drums in general are just, geez, bro. And I'm still learning so much, bro. Like I haven't built near enough drums to, you know, I've still got so much to learn and figure out and many sounds there's so many possibilities, bro. You know?
We learned so much from you today. So I think you're quite deep in, bro. You're deeper in than you think you are.
Sometimes it's a bit tough for me to get it across.
Yeah.
You know?
That goes for all of us, with lots of different traits and stuff. It is like, it's one thing to know something, but it's another thing to kind of convey that.
Yeah.
It's a totally different thing.
Yeah, for sure. But like, I mean, I think I started my first drum I built in 2015. So
that's pretty recent.
Yeah. So I've been building for like 10 years now.
Yeah.
And I mean, like slowly it's definitely becoming a lot easier, I must say.
Yeah.
Like it becomes a lot easier. All the process is it's not
nice
as strenuous and
nice and
stressful,
oiled.
Nice and oiled.
Yeah.
But now it's just about my next mission is finding a space and just enlarging this brand, bro. I just want to
market it. Yeah. Thanks, Brendon.
Yeah, thank you, my Thank you, John.
Such a journey learning about drum building.
Drums, always cool chatting drums, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. This is an honor.
Shot.
Oh, man.